Spanish football club Barcelona has had its outlook cut by the ratings agency Fitch. The agency cutting Barcelona's outlook from stable to negative, citing serious financial underperformance and mounting debts lingering from the huge losses in revenue seen during COVID. In spite of all of this, it has continued to sign new players, spending over 150 million euros in the transfer window this summer. And to pay for that summer spending, the president there has leveraged the club's future earnings, selling off around 600 million euros worth of TV rights and other assets, perhaps a risky gamble on the club's successors on the pitch, providing funds in the coming years. Meanwhile, the English Premier League is back as well, but the UK's cost of living crisis is casting a shadow on how much money fans have to spend to enjoy an afternoon at the footy. Arabile Gumede is outside Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London with more on this. And Arabile, you've been tracking the prices, the price change that we've seen in the UK last week, beer, this week, football. Walk me through it.
Yeah, so Dan, it's been quite interesting really when one considers the fact that just 2 years, of course, where we had COVID-19 affecting then how clubs had match day revenue, of course, right? So big influences when it comes to the money factor on that front, not able to get in the amount of money that they would have at that point in time. But there's another element to it as well. Things like shirt sales have been quite intricate as well, because they haven't been getting that high amount of shirt sales as well, do these local clubs. And that means that the money they've received at the end of the financial year has been quite difficult to bring out a whole lot of profits. So that's one element to kind of bring to play. The other has also been just rights to TV naming rights as well, right? So everybody who then watches games gets a contract every single year, and those clubs then have to then organize those rights too. So those have also not been the same as they have been. And so what clubs are then having to do, unfortunately, is, for one, increase the price of shirt sales. And that has been quite phenomenal too. Just here, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium behind us actually has a big increase in their shirt sales as well. Plus, they've had to, of course, build this stadium, which means that they've also incurred quite massive debts too. They're sitting with a debt pile of around £531 million. So that's quite impactful and hurting their financials overall. And in fact, they've kind of sat in a bit of a precarious situation over the last year or so, but are hoping to get things a little bit better moving on. Certainly very difficult for Premier League clubs. The COVID-19 pandemic hasn't made things any easier.
And Arabile, we were talking about Barcelona's current financial issues, but are we seeing other clubs, other football clubs also struggling to emerge from the pandemic?
Yeah, so there actually is, if we were to talk about a top five, or so to speak, right, of clubs that have struggled to kind of come out of the pandemic, right at the bottom of that list would be Real Madrid, which has hemorrhaged funds. But they also did quite a few upgrades to the Santiago Bernabeu stadium out in Spain as well, which is their main stadium. And during the pandemic, they actually played at their auxiliary stadium too. So they incurred quite heavy debt. They also sold off quite a few players as well, some of their marquee players, people that have been sort of in the club for quite some time. The likes of Sergio Ramos as well, heading off to Paris then in order to try and shore up a few more funds. So they've struggled. Tottenham has also been one of those as well that have struggled. But again, the impact then of having put the stadium together just before the pandemic and things then kind of getting to a stage where they're not getting the same amount of money was quite difficult for them. You still have the likes of Juventus too, which has spent quite a bit of money, the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo back before COVID-19 as well, impacting their finances. Inter Milan, and as you noted, Barcelona, the big one there, certainly struggling. So, yeah, quite a few clubs still struggling to get out of the pandemic.